The lumpy, 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 lumpy mother.
Mom!
Hi, everybody. I'm Natalie Mills.
And I'm Sarah Stark.
And you are listening to The Lumpy Mother, the podcast where we talk about the joys and terrors of motherhood.
We are two best friends and moms who love learning and laughing together. I have an 8-month-old son and a 2.5-year-old daughter.
And I have 4 kids, an 8-year-old daughter, and 3 sons who are 7, 6, and 18 months old.
And because we need to remind ourselves of this sometimes, we're more than just moms. We're people, too.
We are people, and as a person, I like to read books, especially ones that aren't about counting elephants or wishing a dump truck goodnight. I'm also passionate about collecting crafting supplies that I will probably never use.
And I, as a person, enjoy sleeping 8 hours without interruption. I also value quiet, peaceful mornings, sipping hot coffee while reading a book, and loud, repetitive noises are a personal pet peeve of mine.
So if you want consolation in the fact that you're not the only parent who is so mentally exhausted, you accidentally called a lawnmower a yard vacuum.
Oh my gosh. Did you do that?
Yeah, I absolutely did that once.
But you have come to the right space.
The way this works is each week, Sarah and I will have a yes, a no, and a hello for the week. Or in other words, we're going to do something good, something bad, and something random that has to do with our week in parenting.
Natalie and I have a feeling you'll be able to relate to our experiences.
But if you can't relate, we absolutely want to hear from you. So email us at lumpymotherpodcast@gmail.com. We love to learn and we want to know what you think about the topics that we cover.
Yeah. All right. So we have a bit of house cleaning we need to attend to before we dive into this episode. In this case, though, it's not house cleaning I don't mind so much because it's not the kind that magically shows up every single day, no matter how much time I spend cleaning the day before. But anyways, Natalie and I realized we might want to let everyone know a little bit about how we got to know each other and become such good friends. So Natalie,
it was totally magic. It was magic.
Magic, it was. If magic exists, it was in that moment. So I used to live in Northwest Indiana in the same town as Natalie. We went to high school together, but we didn't really know each other then. I don't even think we talked.
I think we had like a few mutual friends, but I do somewhere have pictures from prom because of one of those mutual friends. You came over to my house with a bunch of people.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's right. I forgot about that.
I don't think that I talked to you because I was a little intimidated. You were very cool. You were so much cooler than I was. I've always been a weird person. Somewhere, though, I think I have a picture, though, somewhere of us lined up in my front yard or like my childhood front yard with like 20 other people in our prom dresses.
Yeah.
You had a great dress.
That you bring it up. I remember it. Yeah.
But other than that, we didn't talk.
No, we didn't. And then what happened? The years passed. Lonely, sad years.
After college, we worked at a nonprofit together. It was kind of random, and we totally really clicked immediately.
We did. I still remember the shirt you were wearing. This is starting to sound like a love story.
What shirt was I wearing?
You were wearing a pink shirt. It was pink, and you were pregnant with Harrison, with your son Harrison.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
who is 6
funny.
now. So that was 6 years ago.
I just remember.
He just turned 7?
He just turned 7. Yeah.
Oh, he just.
No, he just turned 6. There's 4 of them. This happens a lot. I remember.
I do not hold that against you.
I remember our director said that we had a new person coming in and it was your name. And I was like excited because I knew who you were. And I think at that point I was like, no, this will be fun. And then you came in and it was like we clicked right away. And it kind of skyrocketed from there. I will say one of my favorite memories is at your wedding when the DJ was like, all right, it's time to close it down. And it was it's supposed to be you and your husband Ben's last dance. But you were moving across the country so soon after that. And I was not
like
emotionally
2 days,
prepared.
literally.
Yes. And so I stole you away from him from your last romantic song of your wedding. And I sobbed through the whole thing. And like
it was beautiful. It was one of the most beautiful moments of my wedding. It was with Natalie.
But I feel like that explains our relationship. So now we're on opposite ends of the country, and we talk regularly just because of the kids, and just general support.
Yes.
Yeah.
If ever I'm having a down day or anything goes wrong or I find something funny, it's Natalie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. And it's wonderful. We're so lucky.
Yeah, I honestly, though, that is true. So we just wanted to make sure everybody understood kind of how we knew each other.
As we, journeyed back and enjoyed nostalgia together. I hope you all felt included. This podcast is for you too.
All right. So we really thought it would be cool to take a minute or two each and talk back about what we talked about on the last episode, and maybe like if we had any other ideas from it or just last minute thoughts. And so I'm going to go first today. So in the last episode, I talked about how much I hate cooking. And first I called my mom because I have twin sisters who are 3 years younger than me. And my dad is a retired airline captain, which meant that throughout my entire life and childhood, he'd be home for 2 or 3 days and then gone for 2 or 3 days for 30 years, you know. So when I was 3, my mom had, 2 infants, newborn twins at home. So I called her and I asked her, because my memories are all of her with a hot meal, but I needed some like reassurance that she didn't always do that. And she said that they did do, or she thinks we did a lot of like sandwiches and fish sticks and whatnot. But it was just interesting having her think back on that. But then also I tried to figure out why I hate cooking so much, because it's definitely not like the cooking itself. It's not being in the kitchen. And I realized, for me at least, it's absolutely all of the planning and like organizing that goes into it. I hate looking at the week ahead and trying to figure out what we're going to eat every night, because I am not creative with food. And so it's like the same 10 things in rotation constantly, which is so frustrating. So that's why I realized when I say I hate cooking, I don't think it's that I hate cooking. It's that I hate all of the decision making and planning that goes into it. So that's my only update. Yeah,
I completely agree, because I like making like a special meal or baking something special, especially if I've been watching nonstop or binge watching the British Bake Off.
What's your rewind this week?
Yeah, I wanted to rewind, and I looked up some fun facts about mindfulness and how it works with our brain to help us regulate our emotion. And it's just super fascinating, and I see why it works for me when I'm able to apply it.
That's awesome.
So I found online, let's see here, the Mayo Clinic definition. And it says, so this is just to define it. Mindfulness is a type of meditation in which you focus on being intensely aware of what you are sensing and feeling in the moment without interpretation or judgment. The judgment part, that's harder than you would think when you start paying attention. And then I found this other interesting, this one's about mindfulness and emotional regulation. It's from Taylor Study Method, which is a behavioral health company, and it's a .com. So I don't know how well that source is, but they did cite a bunch of academic sources and different people researching this that have been published in academic journals. So I feel like it's trustworthy. Also, it goes with what I want mindfulness to do, and it sounds good. So that must make it a ways. mindfulness helps with emotional regulation. One, it can help us better manage our emotional states simply by calming us down. Research shows that when mindfulness is practiced in context of meditative breathing, it helps to slow down the heart rate and underscore feelings of safety, and thus to shift the brain away from the types of flight, freeze responses that hijack the higher cognitive functions. And so what I understand this is when we get triggered by something and our body goes into that like primitive survival mode, our reasonable brain goes offline.
Yeah.
And we go into that. That's when you feel those emotions when they start to take over you and you can't control them. And mindfulness can help counter that by keeping your reasonable brain online. And breathing is one simple way to do that, which is so fascinating to me because breathing is the one thing that we can control cognitively. And it's also just managed subconsciously when we don't think about it. And because of that, I can tie the two like brain parts together. I'm still learning about this. I'm fascinated by psychology, but I'm by no means an expert. But I love to learn and read about how we can use our brains to not freak out on our children. So another reason mindfulness is beneficial in emotional regulation is it increases the gap between stimulus and response. So it helps you give you that pause before you react. One more thing is that it explains that often our approach to emotional discomfort is to do things that make us feel happier, and thus to decrease the intensity of discomfort and pain. Mindfulness works the other way around by increasing your ability to bear with discomfort, both on the physical and emotional level. When our capacity to bear with emotional discomfort is enlarged, we are less likely to react to our emotions or let them control us, which is so different than everything I've ever learned up until the last few years. Like, instead of pushing discomfort away and be like, no, I just want to be happy. No, that's a part of life. And we need to learn how to work with it and handle it.
That's a great update from that. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, I found it really interesting. Okay, so that leads into my yes, which were are all other coping mechanisms that I use to deal with the constant tantrums because they don't stop. Oh, Natalie. This week's was better than last week, but there was a day where I had to instigate every single coping mechanism I knew because it's just nonstop. And I think sometimes my daughter, who's 2.5, Evie, just has to get it out. You know, like things build up and then she just releases them in a day. And that was, I think it was Wednesday. And so, so I have a lot. And I think what I used to struggle with when she first started tantrums around, was it like the 18-month mark? Was it used to really drive me wild when I saw online that you have to stay calm and be the calm for your kid when there's these tantrums, because I've never heard of anyone who wasn't triggered by constant screaming and when it goes on relentlessly all day, and I just thought that was so unrealistic.
And I think there's a difference between like a kid having a single tantrum because they can't have a second cookie. I can stay calm in that situation, but when it's been tantrum after tantrum for hours, that breaks you down. So what kind of coping mechanisms are you using?
Yes. So what I do, one thing, and this is kind of funny, is I saw this on an Instagram post and I wish I could remember who said it so I could give them a shout out. But to lay on the floor and then put your legs up on the wall and then to take deep breaths. And so Wednesday, I think Ben, my husband, came down, I don't know how many times, and I'm just on different walls with my feet up, breathing, while Evie, my daughter, is just screaming and saying, I want a fruit snacks, I want to watch Tumbleleaf. And I'm just... And so that's one. I looked it up, and it's a yoga pose.
Ooh.
And so you go in like this L shape, you take deep breaths, and I looked it up and it says from this yoga site I found, it reduces stress and anxiety and supports the immune and nervous systems. It supports blood flow back to the heart, which makes sense, and sends a message to the body and the nervous system to move into rest, digest, and de-stress
Interesting
mode.
So do you feel better afterwards?
It helps me separate me from her emotions, and just I have something new to focus on, and I do feel better. So I'm learning that I can handle this. I did not think I could when I first started. I really didn't. Another thing is a cold shower, which I've heard my whole life. Have you not heard, like, take a cold shower? And I just dismissed it as like put a dead chicken over your head, like the old wives' tales.
It goes along with like drink more water in my brain. You know, it's like,
yeah, where you're just kind of like,
I can't roll my eyes. I drink a ton of water, so that's not a great example. But at the same time, like, it feels, I don't know why I dismissed that idea, but it doesn't sound enjoyable.
It's miserable. But let me tell you why it works. The after effect is really beneficial. Like, it feels really amazing after, but getting the motivation to do it. But basically, if I'm having a really rough day, I will get in the shower, which is a feat in itself some days, and I will turn it cold, and I will like ferociously stare at this spot on my shower that kind of looks like a tiger, because I've stared at it so intently, and I sing "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star" while the water is ice cold, like angry, like "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." Ah!
You are really selling this for me.
I heard about it on a podcast with this psychologist, Tracy Dalglish. If you want to follow her on Instagram, she's at Dr. Tracy D. And I love her. She's just so wise. I love wise people. I like to imagine they're owls, because who doesn't imagine wise people as owls? So, yes, and she focuses on relationships and motherhood. And she had a guest on her that was saying that this helps with anxiety. I'm like, okay, well, try it. And yes, it's miserable. Yes, it's hard. But afterwards, you're like, let's do it. Let's get this day done. Like, you feel like just pumped up. And for this reason, if you're having when you're having a really bad day, it's easier to do because you're so angry. You just like fuel your rage into the coldness, and it doesn't feel so bad.
If I can almost guarantee you I'll have at least one rough day next week. So when I do, I will try it, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Okay.
You've been
I can't wait.
You've been telling me how much you believe in these, and I just have been really resisting. But this is the week. This is the week I'll do it.
Okay, I believe you. And if you have other coping mechanisms, dude, that's fine. I need coping mechanisms.
I think my really unhealthy coping mechanism is snacking. If I'm stressed out, I use that as an excuse to eat like crazy. And
absolutely
eat all of the things that are horrible for me.
Well, I think for me, what really spurred it on is just as recovering from depression. It's like, okay, I need something more. So I just grasp on anything that's going to help keep me above that, like really that heaviness that can fall. Because I think what scared me about most about postpartum depression was that you think you're fine, and then it just hits you, and like how close you are to it.
Yes.
Even when you're walking around thinking everything's okay, and then you're just like, whoa, what happened here? And I think I've been scared ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when you're like so deep in the trenches of that, you're willing to try anything to feel just a little bit better, no matter how crazy it sounds. I think that in those moments, you're just looking for something to be a ray of light.
And these are things for me, that I can hold on to that make me feel like I have control over something that I often feel so out of control with. But there is some scientific evidence if you need more evidence that I found online. I like to research things. That's another way I feel in control, is just like looking everything up and feeling like I know as much as I can, which actually hurt me before I had my first daughter, because I read all the books, I did all the things, and she had colic, and there's nothing that's gonna work except just maintaining and just having grit and just being there every day. Whew. If anyone's going through that right now, I could just cry thinking about you, and I just want to send you all the love I can. that pushes every limit you have as a human. But anyways, back to the cold shower. Researchers from the University of Osaka found that cold water bathing had a beneficial effect in reducing the cortisol hormone, which we all know is the stress hormone. And some studies show that it can improve our resilience to stress. Also, people with the habit of swimming in cold water and taking cold showers reported improved mood, less stress, more energy, and pain relief from rheumatism.
Huh.
And one more interesting tidbit. It activates beta-endorphin and noradrenaline in the brain. Noradrenaline is used in antidepressant medications.
Oh, interesting.
That's pretty incredible. And then my other thing is just breath work. Like if Franklin he's been really fussy lately. He's just going through like some mental development stuff. Mm-hmm. And he's having a hard time falling asleep for naps. And so I'll let him cry for a little bit, and I kind of just lay on the floor and just breathe in and then let my breath go all the way out. And supposedly when you let your breath go all the way out and you breathe out longer than you breathe in, it helps activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is like, oh, don't ask me, but it has something to do with staying out of that survival, fight, flight, freeze mode. And so basically you don't want your rational mind to go offline, and breathing like that is one way to prevent that. So that's my yes for today.
That was good.
Thank you.
I'm really proud of you for being able to even be in the state of mind to remember those in the moments that are just like, this is all crashing down around me, so that's really knowing the things.
And that's the hardest part is like when this is happening, for some reason you want to let yourself go there because that's what your body like naturally wants to do. Yep. So to be able to stop yourself, that is the hardest part. But once you do it, it feels better.
Yeah. Well, and knowing things and doing things are two separate. You can know these things, but that doesn't always mean you put them into action, but you are putting them into action. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Can't wait to hear about your cold shower experience.
Oh my goodness. All right. So my yes this week is an awesome yes. And it's honestly, my yes is just about my mom. I work part-time, and one of the many things I love about my job is that I can do most of it from home, which is awesome. I do have a desk and an office that I share with a few other ladies that I can go into when I want. And it's really good for me to get in every so often because it means that I get away from the house a little bit. It's a little bit of a routine outside my house, but also I am much more productive when I'm sitting at my desk versus when I'm in the playroom surrounded by my kids. So I'm trying to go in every so often, but of course we're in the middle of a pandemic right now and childcare is expensive no matter what. So my mom has been helping out every so often. And so on Tuesday, she came to watch my kids all day so that I could go to work. And I knew this was going to be another really rough week. Nick has 6 nights of sports again. So I called her last week and asked if after she babysat, if she could stay through dinner just to help me with that, like the witching hour, like we talked about last time, that time that is so hard to control. And because my mom is awesome, she was like, yes, absolutely. My mom is my yes this week because she rolls with the punches 100%. There's no judgment from her, which is everyone needs someone like that in their life. When she walks in my house, it's chaos from the get-go. First off, we have a 9-month-old Great Dane who is like 95 pounds and will grow for another 9 months. We think she's going to be around 160 pounds to 180 pounds. She's going to be huge. But because she's still a puppy, she still has puppy excitement. So like my mom walks in the door and Frida, our Great Dane, is like all energy. The kids who have known that grandma's coming and they have not seen grandma a ton because we've just have not been with other people a lot, obviously. So my kids, it was almost like they were quivering with excitement, like little chihuahuas in the corner. You know, they had crazy eyes and they were just like shaking because grandma was coming for a whole day and they couldn't contain themselves.
Oh, I can just envision this. Yeah.
Yes.
Or like trapped in the corner by the door or something, you know.
Just like,
These rabid animals.
Yes. And so my mom walks in, and first it's the dog, who's tall enough to essentially reach your face with all four paws on the ground. And then it's all four kids going, like, losing their minds. And then you walk into the house itself, and half of my Christmas decorations are still up, and the other half are just like in boxes and tubs throughout every room. It's a mess. In my living room, and I counted just so that I know that I wouldn't be exaggerating. I had 7 laundry baskets of clean laundry that I had been washing, and they're just like it's the corner, it's the laundry basket corner. So you walk into my house and it's chaos, but she's like here for it.
But let's tell everyone about the magic that is your Christmas though. How many trees do you have? I guess to get to the why it's so hard to put all this away, because you do the most beautiful, amazing Christmases in your 100-some-year-old house.
Yeah. We do. It's a lot of boxes. I'll say that. But my mom walks in and she's like, she does not even bat an eye. She's here for it. She's ready. I go to work and she does all of my kids' virtual learning with them, which is the biggest blessing ever, because it means that I don't have to do it when I get home or do twice as much the next day, you know. And my kids they're pretty good at e-learning, but you do have to kind of like stay on top of them. And my 6-year-old son, Harrison, is in kindergarten. He can't read a lot of instructions. It's a lot of hand holding there. Yeah. So she did all of the virtual learning with them. She gives, because she's grandma, she gives each of the kids like one-on-one playtime that they don't even get from me regularly. You know, she played on the floor with American Girl dolls with Ava. She did card games with the boys. They did Pokemon stuff. So they got a ton of attention that they don't always get when it's me or my husband Nick in the house. So they were fulfilled in that way. By the time I got home and I cooked dinner, she entertains my kids happily while I'm cooking the whole time. She stays through dinner, which was awesome. And then she helps me put the kids in their pajamas. She reads them bedtime stories. She changes Charlie's diaper, puts him in his pajamas, lays him down to bed, gets all of my kids in bed. I feel like I'm following her around like a 5th kid.
She's like, wow. Yes.
She walked in and she took
That's
charge.
Incredible.
Yeah. And
moms, man.
Yes,
like we're moms,
right?
But like they're mom. Like
I know.
Our moms are moms.
They're superstar moms.
Because my mom was the same way.
Yes.
Yeah, when she came and when so she didn't get to meet Franklin for a while.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, which was hard. But she came in September.
Yeah.
And he was about 4 or 5 months old, and she did all the dishes. I could not ask for anything more.
That's
that was incredible.
Yes, and it is 100% that. And so I mean, and like the boys' room especially is a disaster. I mean, you can't see the floor in most of their room because I don't have the patience to sit with them a lot of times. So, but she doesn't care. She climbs through all of it and tucks them into bed. And then after all of my kids are in bed, which she did 100% of the work for, we sat on the couch in the living room and she just like hung out with me for an hour and a half. And it was awesome because we have been really careful. COVID is very real for us. We lost my husband's dad died of COVID. And so we have barely left the house other than school and work. So I have not had a lot of time with my mom, who I'm really close with and usually see pretty often. So it was beautiful in that way. But also, I think she could tell that I needed some like nourishment outside of my kids, you know. I think she just knew that I needed an adult to like hang out with, kind of. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
Every parent out there understands what I'm talking about right now when I say that.
You can feel so alone even though you're with kids all day because it's not the level of company that you need. I think nourishment's the perfect word that you said.
Yes, it was incredible. And it totally got me through this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird because sometimes when this happens, when I feel like I have to apologize, like, oh, thank you for staying late. I feel really bad that you did that. Like there's some guilt there. And then I remind myself that I would be so happy to do that for my kids one day. And I just want to say that I know that everyone obviously does not have this kind of relationship with their mother.
Right.
And
we're very fortunate.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was yes in every way for me, was her coming and stepping up and taking care of my kids, but then also kind of taking care of me a little bit too.
And just how she did it so intuitively.
Yeah.
Where, like you said, you felt like you were just following around, but because she just came and took charge.
Yep.
And sometimes, man, oh boy, would I love for someone else to be in charge, you know?
Well, when someone comes and
incredible.
takes charge, it's not only a physical break, like my body is getting a break, it's a mental break as well. Because I don't have to think, okay, which of these kids have not brushed their teeth yet? Who needs these things? It's like that kind of checklist that as a parent, for me, it's just as a mom, is constantly going on in my head. She checked off all of the homework stuff. All three of my older kids take music lessons. Everyone practiced their instruments that day. I mean, it was just like everything that needed to happen happened, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my yes this week. And that is a 100% all around, full circle, everything that I needed kind of yes.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing such a powerful yes. I think we can all feel gratitude, especially in this time of COVID and just unprecedented stresses.
Yeah. And I hope that even if our listeners don't have that kind of relationship with their mom, I hope that you have someone out there that can do these things for you with no judgment and no guilt, that can...
or even to call,
Yes, be in your life with no guilt or no judgment. That's really the big thing for me is that, yeah. So anyways, that's my yes, which means now that we've done 2 yeses, we move on to no's. So what's your no for this week?
My no is power struggles, because I struggle with them, as I'm sure many do. And I get wrapped up in winning for some reason. I didn't realize I had such a side in me. And the biggest thing is just putting Evie's hair up so that she doesn't get eggs in whatever she's eating for breakfast or lunch or dinner in her hair. And I was thinking as we went on a walk and she had her hair in a messy ponytail because she wouldn't let me brush it and had egg and whatever else in it and it was sticky and messy. The reason that I want her hair up so much is because I'm so worried other people are going to judge me about how cleanly she looks. And she takes regular baths. She's clean, but she doesn't look like she's clean. She looks like very messy. She looks like she just dove into a vat of scrambled eggs. A vat, not a bat. But I'm working on that. I'm working on what matters for my daughter, and a few eggs in her hair isn't as important as the big thing for me is bodily autonomy. I want her to feel like she has a say over her body, which is tough because you also, if you give her all the say, it's going to be neglect because she has to be clean. She has to do things she doesn't want to do with her body, like wash her hair or put on clothes when, outside to stay warm. So you have to find that balance, and I often get trapped in the we're doing her hair, and she's screaming and she hates it, and I remember hating it as a kid too, and that's just something I'm struggling with, going back and forth.
I feel this on such a personal level for many reasons, not only because this is something I've noticed about myself, that it's like if I get in an argument or something with one of the kids, like a disagreement, my competitive nature comes out and I really unhealthily.
Yeah, it's hard to stop yourself.
Yes.
So you just keep going and going and going. And
yes. But also Ava, she's 8 and she does not like to have her hair brushed. She has never liked to have her hair brushed. It's always her screaming, and she's 8 and it's still like this. And there is this, people are going to judge you differently as a parent. Ava's
Yeah.
clean. Her clothes are clean. She just doesn't like to brush her hair. I will say the biggest thing that we ever did, our saving grace, was chopping it short. It's like chin length most of the time. It was hard for me to let go of long hair because I love to braid. I love to do all the fun stuff, but she won't let me do any of that anyways.
I didn't realize how attached I would be to her hair, to Evie's hair, because she's only 2.5 and she still has her baby curls at the bottom. And so we still haven't cut her hair, and she's, it's down in the middle of her back.
Yeah.
And I know it make things a lot easier for everyone involved. It's probably really worth it. Yeah. Just got to make the leap. But yeah, power struggles and stopping myself from getting to a point where I'm really upset because I'm not winning.
I feel like sometimes it's my pride or something. Once I calm down, I can look back on that argument and realize, okay, that was not worth that fight. It was not actually a big deal like I thought it was in the moment. And so
why did I escalate that to such an extent? Why didn't I just walk away? Why do I have to win?
Yeah. Do you think you do this with your husband at all, with Ben?
Oh, yeah. I would say I think my biggest issue is like I want him to apologize first. I mean, but I can apologize too. Both parties are responsible in an argument, whether you want to be or not. But there's this pride, and you're just like, he was more wrong. He was more wrong.
Mine's really similar. It's like if I am right about dumb stuff, like if we are watching a movie and he's like, oh, that's the guy that played so and so, and I'm like, no, it's not. And then we get into an argument and he looks it up and I was right. If I find out I'm right, I need him to like make a big deal out of the fact that I was right and he was wrong. That's how unhealthy competitive I get with this stuff. It's 90% of the time it's about someone that's an actor in a movie. So, anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's my no.
Yeah.
It's just so funny how we get so trapped in these emotions and then when you're able to reflect on them with a more reasonable mind, you're like, that's just so silly. And then you do it again the next day. So that's my no. Natalie, what's your no this week?
My no has changed multiple times. This actually happened today. And my no is the guilt and stress that comes with spending money on things that you still kind of need. Sarah, you're half of this story, so you already know all of this, but
yeah.
The older kids went back to school today. They're in person this week, Thursday and Friday.
Ooh.
So yes, it was
to be such a relief.
It was. I love my children so much, but it was kind of like Christmas morning watching them go to school.
Every human needs space. And quiet.
Yes. So they are back at school, which means it was just me and Charlie for 2 days, which was awesome. There's a lot of like weird things that have been on my to-do list, things that we've needed to get that I just haven't because it's so hard to do when I have to take 4 kids to the store with me, and a lot of times I don't like doing my shopping at night because then I'm not with him either, Today I put on like real clothes. I take that back. I still had yoga pants on, but they were clean. They were clean yoga pants. But I did like actually do my hair and I put a little bit of makeup on. It was awesome. I was standing in Target and Sarah, I sent you a text because I knew that you would make me feel better about it in that moment. Oh. And I told you, like, I'm just on a really big spending spree today. And you got really excited for me. And you were like, what did you buy yourself? And then I started listing the things that I had bought, which included like organizational tubs and a laundry basket and curtains for the boys' room. Can I tell you real quick? We live on one of the 2 major streets in our town, which is also technically a state highway. The boys' room faces the highway and the very busy sidewalk. We've been here for a year and 3 months, and they've never had blinds or curtains. And one of my boys is naked half of his life. So I finally bought curtains today for their room. What else? Oh, I got some clearance jammies for Charlie because you can never pass up good jammies. Light bulbs. I got light bulbs. And as I texted out, I realized this sounds so sad now. And you even said, you were like, None of those things. This is not a shopping spree. This is errands.
Yeah.
This is not the same thing.
Well, no, that's what I remember. I said something like, just as I expected, nothing fun for you. This is not like, because I did the same thing. I go and I texted you that I one time bought pillows for a family because we needed more pillows. And I felt so guilty because pillows are expensive.
Yeah, it's so weird. And that's the thing. I stood there. I was at Target and I stood there with the cart and I like, why do I feel guilty about buying curtains for my boys' room? Right. They need curtains. Why do I feel guilty about...
Absolutely, they need curtains. Yes, like everything you just said, like they need curtains.
Yes, about buying light bulbs and organizational tubs so that my life isn't quite as chaotic. You know, I don't understand why there was the guilt for that. And so then you were awesome and you kind of were like, why don't you find something for yourself? And so I did dig through. I did.
Like, if this is going to be something you feel guilty about anyway, you may as well enjoy it.
Let's just go there. Yeah. And so I did go through all of the clearance stuff and I found 2 shirts for myself. The other thing I bought for myself, which this just ties into all of this. Our puppy, and like all puppies do, they chew on a lot of stuff. And I woke up one morning and she had chewed on the only good bra that I had because I'm a mom and I had a single bra, you know, that wasn't a sports bra or whatever. And that was 2 months ago. So for 2 months, I have only been wearing sports bras and swimsuit tops. And I'm at church every Sunday. So if you've seen me in the last 2 months, that's what's been going on. But and it's so stupid. I need a bra, and like I couldn't convince myself just to buy one. It makes me so mad at myself.
It sounds dumb when you say it out loud, but I do the same thing in my head, especially bras because they are pricey. They are expensive. Yeah, I mean, I have the same bras from years and years ago, and I'm sure they don't fit right.
Exactly. We've had kids, so everything changes. Yeah, that one bra that the dog ate, it was probably at least 4 years old. I feel guilty about the fact that I have to buy it, and then I get angry at myself because I feel guilty for that. You know, it's this whole cycle. Yeah. So I bought myself like a $20 Target bra, which was like, at least it's something, I guess. Yeah. But it made me like have this internal conversation about why do I have to rationalize some of these things, and why does there guilt that comes with some of this stuff like curtains or light bulbs or whatever else. And there were I also bought myself a hair straightener. So, and good.
I'm sure you've had your other hair straightener for... I've had mine since high school, so
yeah. Well, since Ava was little, I think so at least 8 years. It's like sticky and weird. But the point is that I came up with 2
sticky
reasons.
And weird.
Yeah, it is.
I like that description. Good.
And it also like pulls out my hair every so often. Do you ever use one where like your hair gets stuck in a crack of it? Anyways,
I have a lot of triggers, and I hate my hair pulled. Ugh. Like when it's like just a few fine hairs and it just,
one hair. Yes,
that pain.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out why I feel these things, and I came up with 2 things. And I think the first one is the fact that because I'm buying them, they feel like they're for me, even though they're not technically for me. So then it's like, well, you know, I feel bad because Nick doesn't really buy anything for himself like this. And then it's like, no, it's curtains. It's not for anyone. It's
for your boys. Yeah.
Yeah. But I, you know, like the organizational tubs, you know, technically, yes. Could I use old Amazon boxes to sort some of this stuff out? Probably. You know, for Nick, like that would be fine. And so that's why it feels like it's for me, I guess, in some way. Mm-hmm. The other part of it, and this is probably the biggest part, is that for most of our marriage, my husband Nick is an assistant principal now, but he was an elementary school teacher for the rest of our marriage. And I was in college, so I was a broke college student. And then I've stayed home with kids. I've done weird jobs, like not serving is not a weird job, but like stuff like that a lot. And then our oldest son, Henry, is adopted, which is a very expensive thing. So all of this ties together just to say that we have rarely felt financial stability in our marriage until Nick got the assistant principal job. So for 8 years of our marriage, buying a plastic organizational tub when I didn't technically need it was usually not okay, you know, even when I was, you know, you make really good money serving. So it wasn't that we weren't both bringing in money. A lot of it, there was a good solid 2 years through the adoption that every penny we had was going to that, you know? And so I think that the 8 years of just literally living paycheck to paycheck, and I mean that in we didn't have a savings account, you know. If something had gone wrong, I don't know what we would have done. And that was just the reality of our life. And so I think living like that for so long has changed the way that I think about spending money. And in some ways it's good because it makes us pretty frugal, but in other ways, when it comes to like feeling guilt about buying a laundry basket, it's just ridiculous. So, so I think that's where it came from. And it was good because I do have to talk myself through that sometimes. When this is really silly, but when he got his job, we had a like a clogged sink for months and we had never done anything about it. And so I went out and I bought like Drain-X or whatever it's called. Yeah. And it was the first time since we had been married that I had ever purchased something like that. That wasn't like, usually if we had a clogged drain, it was me with a wire hanger getting it out, you know. But it felt like a luxury item in that moment. I was like, I have bought this $12 container of goo that is only for drains, that is for nothing else. I don't have to multi-purpose it. I don't have to make it on my own. And that was like, I sent him to get dirty. Yes. Know? Well, I sent him a text. I was like, this feels like living the high life. Yeah. I hate the guilt that comes with purchasing even necessary things.
Well, after such a history of that, I can imagine, you know. But I love how with the Drano, it kind of made you feel grateful.
Yes. Yeah.
You know?
And that's absolutely, no, it's having 8 years like that has done two things to me. One of them is it's made me extremely grateful for everything that we can bring into our house now. Yeah. And it makes me feel really blessed. The other one is I feel like I have to, like if I get a, dresser from a garage sale and then my mom is like, oh, this is a really nice dresser, I'm like, it was on sale, I only paid $40. Like, you know, which is a very Midwest kind of thing too, but I feel like I have to like but I feel like I have to explain to people like, don't worry, I didn't spend money on it, you know.
No, same. I have to tell you, I've been extremely privileged my whole life, and I'm very grateful for that. And so there's some things that I'm not aware of because, well, I've just never had that kind of scarcity or worry. And I try to educate myself and be aware of that. But so I like to get stuff from thrift stores, and whenever anyone would compliment me, I was like, it's $3.
Yes.
$3. And my grandma, who we called Busha, she'd be like, don't tell anyone that. Why would you brag about that? But you know what's interesting is she came from a more impoverished background. She recently passed. She was 99 years old. So she grew up and experienced the Great Depression. She remembers when she was young, and like and they were in South Dakota, and her dad comes to the window and's like, I have to go search for the cows, and it's pitch black because it's all dust. It's the Dust Bowl. And so it's interesting how we had two different perspectives because she didn't have that. So she didn't want people to know she was poor, where I didn't want people to think that I spent extravagantly on stupid things. Yeah. Or not stupid things, but even clothes. Like there's like a humility in that or something. along those lines.
The whole thing is a no for me, and I'm not sure how to work on it. I think it's just to remind myself that it's okay. You know, I have to tell myself, or I even have to like in my brain, like, okay, I'm spending this much money. It doesn't, every bill will still be paid. Everything is going to be okay. You know, I have to like go through that in my head now.
Maybe that's it, is that you think you're taking away from some sort of necessity when you're not anymore. Like you're still in that survival mental state.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but it's it was an immediate change in our life when Nick got his new job, and it was a almost overwhelming. And it's a year and a half later, I'm still kind of struggling to adjust to some of it, and I'm really excited that the boys have curtains now. So, because a lot of it is me in their room at 6 a.m. in my pajamas and robe, and every person that's driving to work can like very clearly see me. But it's fine. It's fine.
You're safe.
I am really excited about your hello.
Speaking of safety, this is my hello. Okay. I recently came across this guy on Instagram, and his handle is @Dutch in the USA, and he teaches survival techniques, like if you're ever abducted or get handcuffed or zip tied. Yeah. Or someone's strangling you in a car. And I think a lot of women especially, or anyone who's ever feels vulnerable because of their size or for whatever reason, it definitely can relate to wanting to know how to survive in these situations. And Natalie and I, well, we're both true crime fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Natalie calls me when she's going to her car at night to make sure. And one time there was a person in the back of her car. So
I'll save that story for another time. But
aware. Yes. Oh, so scary.
I think women in particular are so interested in true crime, at least for me. It's my brain going over and over again, like, how would I react in that situation? Mm-hmm. How could I get out of that situation? How could I prevent that situation from happening? So it's almost
more
like
likely to be in that situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I think is...
Yeah. It's like exposure therapy, kind of. So
yeah. It's another way of feeling in control. Like if I know how to get out of these situations in all these ways, then it's not so scary if it. Well, I mean, it'll still be terrifying if someone's trying to strangle me in a car. But at least I know. Get my elbow in there. Oh, you have to watch his videos. I'm gonna just plug him. Dutch in the USA. He's an ex-Royal Marine, and I looked that up. So he must be British. He also looks like Jason Bourne, so there's an added benefit. And today I ordered zip ties because I wanted to see if I could do it. All right, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm a little bored. So they came in the mail, and I got the like heavy duty ones. And I put them on, and I did his thing. So you put them on, you're supposed to make them real tight, and you slam them into your belly, and they're supposed to break. Well, they did not break. And I basically just like punched myself over and over and over. And now I have these red lines on my wrist. And so it didn't work. I'm going to try again because I watched his video closer, and he definitely got more leverage up in the air. He's also like super built and muscular and strong. And I'm not at this point. I am strong in a lot of ways. They just aren't all physical.
But not with zip ties.
Not with zip ties. They were, really thick. And I'm like kind of bleeding a little bit from them.
Well, I think that, standing in your safe house, in your bedroom, trying to do it is one thing. But I think watching the video, if you were ever actually in that situation, I have no doubt that the adrenaline would get you out of them. Just like it would give you the power. At least you know the
technique. That's such a good point. Because I was like, I'm punching myself and it hurts. But yeah, it's really fun. I've been obsessed with his videos. I'm just like, okay, teach me all the things I know, and I can teach this to my daughter. We're ready. But I'm going to try again. I'm going to do more leverage. I'm going to see if this works.
Yeah. Test it out. I think this should be your only New Year's resolution is to get yourself out of zip ties.
You know what? I like it because it's like physical and you can see it when it's accomplished.
And you just got to do it once and then you're like, 2021, it's in the bag. I love the items that have come out that you can buy specifically for women to help you feel safe when you're walking through parking lots and things like that.
Yeah.
There's it's like tiger claws they're called or something, and it lays flat. Have you seen these? So you squeeze them with your fingers. You put the device kind of in the palm of your hand and you squeeze it with your fingers, and literal metal claws pop out the end when you squeeze it.
Oh, yes, kitty cat.
And the metal claws go in between your fingers so that if you had to swipe at someone, it's not just you using your fist, it's like doing actual damage. I love that kind of stuff because
we should link to our show notes.
Yeah.
With these things. Those are
cool.
Actually,
that's a great idea. We'll put some of those in there just in case you're like us and like to feel safe in any situation.
I'm really afraid of getting abducted and murdered.
I've always been that way. Have you always been that way? Like since you were a teenager?
Yes.
Yeah.
Touch and go. Like, I was reckless. At the same time, I was terrified. Does that make sense? Like, I did really stupid things, but I was also very hyper aware that I could be abducted or something anytime.
I was fear-based. I was 100% fear-based. I was afraid of everything. You can ask my parents. We lived in the middle of nowhere. We're in a very rural community. So we had 13 acres of land, but we were surrounded by hundreds of acres, so you couldn't see our neighbor's house. And I had to park the car that I drove in the barn, not in the garage. So I will never forget the feeling. The barn door was not automatic. It was manual. So I drove a truck. I'd park the truck, and then you would have to turn the light off, and now it's pitch black and you're outside in the pitch black. The garage door had a rope on it, the barn door did, so I'd pull the rope, you'd get about like a third of the way, and gravity would take over, and I would sprint to the house. And I did that any night I was coming home late because I was terrified. I was always terrified.
That sounds terrifying. You're surrounded by desolate wilderness.
Yes, it was everywhere.
Northwest Indiana,
Yeah.
I look back and I did so many reckless things as a teenager, and then I also I was just a weird combination. I was really naive, but I had this sense for adventure.
Oh yeah. So my hello for this week is sleepwalking.
Yeah, what?
So this kind of got started. I am a little addicted to TikTok, and there is a woman on TikTok that I absolutely love. She's hilarious. She's really creative. She has her own makeup line, and her last thing of makeup, it was a collection. It was all like poop based names, so it was browns, but it's really funny. But so she has this thing where if she eats certain foods, she sleepwalks, like intense sleepwalking. So she set up cameras in her house, and a lot of her TikToks are just the videos of her with audio. And I thought I was gonna pee myself. I was laughing so hard, and it made me. It started with that, but then my 8-year-old daughter is a sleepwalker. She sleepwalks probably about once a month. And sometimes it's really innocent stuff. We'll be watching TV and she'll walk in and sit on the couch and kind of just stare at the wall. You just have to suggest, do you think you should go back to bed? And she'll go right back up. But every so often she does weird stuff. So yeah. There was one night we were sitting downstairs on the couch, and we don't have, like I've said before, we don't have an open concept house. We live in a really old house too, which does not help this. And so she comes down the stairs and she stands in the doorway and she just stares at us because her eyes are open. And she just goes, "I just wanted to say goodbye." And then she turns around and goes back up to bed. And Nick and I got goosebumps thinking about it. Nick and I stared at each other for a second. And I was like, I think we.
And children are already so creepy at night.
They're so creepy at night. So she said that. She walked back upstairs. I looked at Nick and I said, we need to go make sure that she ended up in bed and that everything is okay up there. That was really weird. She never remembers any of it. And so, but then another time Nick was upstairs and she walked out of her bedroom and into the bathroom and pet the toilet like a dog for a few minutes, for like 30 seconds. And then went back to bed, and that was it. And so every so often she'll do really funny things like that. And she's been doing this for years. For years she's been doing it. She never remembers it. We always laugh the next day. And so then I started looking it up because I just think it's so interesting. It's creepy when your kids do it, but it's interesting too. And one of the things that I read says that it can be hereditary. You can get it. It's like passed down from generation to generation. So I called my mom and I asked if she ever remembered us, my sisters or I, sleepwalking, and she said no. And then I called my grandmother on my dad's side and asked if he ever slept walk. And she was like, yes, he slept walk all of the time. Isn't that so funny? So she told me,
generation, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So she told me a story that she woke up one night and he was standing on their dining room table, like on top of it, like trying to find a cat or something. They never owned a cat. He was like, she said that he went to the bathroom once and went through like all of the medicine cabinet stuff in the middle of the night. And so, yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. And for her, when I told her, Ava sleepwalks, she was like, oh, she got really worried because like walking out the door at night, of course, would be a really bad thing. Yeah. And that's one of the things that what I read said is it can be dangerous when it comes to that kind of thing. Yeah. We have an alarm on the house, so if she ever left, it would go off right away. None of our other kids do it. It's just Ava. They also said that it can be brought on by a full bladder, and that one of the side effects of that can be them peeing in weird places in your house. And one of the things that the article said was it can be brought on by stress or anxiety. And there have been a few times where if it's either just a really bad week for Ava at school or there's a big change coming up, like transitioning from summer to school, I have noticed a few times that it will get more active in those moments, that she'll start doing it more in that time. Like
her body doesn't know to stay still or what. If something happens, I think, in sleep where for most people that tells your body to not get up and walk. Yeah,
it's your REM cycle, right? That's your REM cycle. It literally paralyzes your body most of the time. That's the only thing I remember from my college psychology class.
Well, I know there was a comedian that I saw in some late show, and he was talking about how he has a disorder where his body doesn't know not to act out his dreams, and he has to live in like he has to not live. He's asleep in a special sack that keeps him so he doesn't like do anything reckless. And I think one time he dreamt he was Superman or something like that, and he literally ran out a window and he woke up and he was running and there's glass all around him and he was like,
well, that's one of the big things that they say is that you should never wake a sleepwalker up. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to like convince them to go back to bed. Yeah, or
but
just
why? Is it because they'll just lash out, or they'll be traumatized?
I have no idea. Here's the thing: I'm gonna make this up. This is what I assumed, but this could not. This could totally be wrong. But I thought it was something like the brain. It's hard for it to transition out of a dream in that way, and then startling to wake up in a place that you didn't fall asleep in, maybe, I also, one of the things that it said it could be related to, which I always wondered, is night terrors for kids. Ava had insane night terrors when she was younger. They were horrible. She would get them the first 2 or 3 hours after she fell asleep. She would wake up screaming, and I mean screaming like someone had set her on fire. And if you touched her, like if you tried to hold her, it would get worse. It was rough. And so I kind of wondered if like, okay, that's a nighttime thing where your brain does something weird. And it said it can be related. And so I thought that was interesting too. She's our only kid who ever had night terrors like that. And she would never remember them. If I asked her the next morning how she slept, if she had any bad dreams, she'd always say no. So it's weird, but
wow. Sleep is fascinating and mysterious.
It is so crazy. So, hey, if any of our parents out there had kids that had crazy night terrors and now sleepwalk, let me know. So I'm not the only one that's making that connection in my head. But
yeah, I do think you're right about the stress and anxiety.
She always laughs about it the next day. I think she thinks it's like her special thing, you know? She's the only one.
It is unique. It's cool. Yeah. It's interesting. I remember having, I don't remember the night terror itself, but I remember the next morning when I stayed at my Busha, who I had mentioned earlier, my grandma, who we called Busha, we'd sleep in the same bed. And there was one night she's like, you woke up screaming. What happened? And I don't remember that. But I felt that was kind of like neat. I don't know why at that age. I was probably Ava's age.
Crazy? It's crazy. So that's my hello this week. It's just, but I would absolutely, we'll put that TikTok page in our show notes as well, because if you need something to laugh at, it is so funny. So that's today. That's episode number 2. It's crazy. As we wrap up today's episode, I just want to remind everybody out there once again that we want to hear from you. We absolutely want to hear from you. So like I said earlier, you can always email us at lumpymotherpodcast@gmail.com and tell us things like, what are your tantrum coping strategies? Do you binge eat like I do? Do you do yoga poses like Sarah does?
Not fancy yoga poses. I'm not flexible.
Or even just fill us in with your yes or no from your week. If you have a really funny sleepwalking story, I would love to hear some collections of some funny sleepwalking stories, whether it was you or your kids or your siblings. And who knows, maybe we'll read some of them in the next episode.
And if you like what you heard today, there are some important things you can do to help others find us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your podcast and rate and review us. Oh, man, that would mean the world to us if you would take the time to rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast, and share us with someone who might enjoy our show. It means a lot to us.
Also, do not forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. It's at Lumpy Mother Podcast. In fact, we are going to pick one follower from Facebook and one follower from Instagram to win a $15 gift card to Starbucks or Amazon. You get to choose. We're going to post the details on how to enter that. We'll post those on the Instagram and the Facebook page, so definitely check back there. And then we are going to declare our winner in the next episode. So next Tuesday, you guys will get to hear who won.
Yay! And please make sure to join us next week to see what motherhood has in store for our lives and yours. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.